Greetings, amigops and top teners everywhere. Welcome back to another edition of Top 10 with Kyle and Mike. I am your co-host, Kyle. Opposite me today is your lovely co-host, Michael. Also next to Michael, directly, are two former guests of the pod, our favorite family of the pod. We have Quinn and Emma. They, I believe, have put together a top 10 list today hastily because we asked them to do it like a day before we recorded this. It is written on a paper towel, I am understanding. They will relay this list to us. We will vigorously debate it. By the end of this episode, we will have arrived at a definitive version of this list. Guys, what are we doing?
All right, K-Dog, as you said, we have two of our favorite co-hosts here, but as you neglected to mention, because you probably didn't know it at the time, we actually have three of our favorite co-hosts. Not only do we have Quinn and Emma, we have their son, whose name I'm not going to mention because he's a minor. They can say his name if they like. He is here to help us, so to the listeners, we are going to do our finest editing work to keep this some clean audio, but this is some live in-studio stuff.
You might hear some squeals and grunts.
I expect our little buddy is going to be adding his opinion here and there. So I also don't know what the heck we're talking about, but I'm certainly looking forward to it because I've got the first family of Top 10 here with me, the entire group.
So today we're planning on talking about our top 10 date ideas.
Oh.
So
I'm a big fan of the Medjool. That's a date variety for those of you who don't like dried fruit.
Oh. Boo.
I just did it for Dylan. You're welcome, Dylan.
Wow.
So we want to set a few ground rules. First, no fruit involved of the dried variety.
Great rule.
Second, we've only chosen from things that we have done ourselves. We're not going to speculate on what makes a great date unless we've done it.
Terrific rule, because now and I'm sure all the listeners get to picture you guys on these dates. This is great.
So we also, once we get to re-ranking and you guys adding things, please do add things that we have not done on dates.
Because we've only been on a few dates. Kyle's probably been on more dates with you guys, but I've only been on a couple. I have been ice skating with you guys.
That's true. You're a much better ice skater than either of us.
So it doesn't have to be a date that you guys have gone on that we've also creeped on.
No.
No, just the two of us. And it also isn't limited to like a couples only date, or it could be a group date, could be couples only. It is just definitively a date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I'm just going to go ahead and start with number 11 because we decided that it should actually be on the list, but we liked the other one so much more that we eliminated it, but it deserved a spot, so there's now an 11th spot, and that's going out to dinner.
I love it.
Going out to dinner.
Yes.
It's an oldie but a goodie.
Exactly. Everybody does it.
Talk to me about going out to dinner, because I do remember a great episode of The Office where Michael is about to go on a date, and it's his and Holly's, I want to say, third date, which is, in his eyes, is traditionally the date when two people would sleep together. And so he's debating exactly what food he should have, like something light, like soup. So here's my question for you. Going out to dinner is kind of a generic thing, but I'm assuming this is a date. It's a romantic thing. You want to maybe stroll after dinner. You might even smooch under, the moonlight. What's your take? Do you go right for the great food, or do you kind of lighten it up a little bit? So, and I want you to also maybe chart the course of your relationship, because you're in a different place now.
Right.
There is a baby. There's a real life baby in the studio right now. So you're in a different spot than you used to be.
Absolutely. So I think now it's just anything's fair game.
Absolutely. Although actually our first date too, we went to Granite City and you got the messiest burger as I recall.
He set expectations early.
I did. But it wasn't like covered in garlic, let's say.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was, early on in a relationship, I might be a little more smell conscious.
Interesting.
Not necessarily like neatness or embarrassment level conscious, but
there is
definitely
no good date food. I can get them all on my clothes.
But I don't want the smell to be sticking around on the early stuff. Now it's really just what sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, we did have for lunch today for the listeners. We did go on a sort of a. You guys were on a date. Theo wasn't. You guys were on a date. Your son was not crashing, I was crashing, but I would call that datey, and we had all bacon and pork-based stuff, and then we had bacon mac and cheese balls, so we stunk.
Yeah. Sounds delicious, though.
No,
it was well worth it.
It was magnificent.
Here, baby.
So we felt like going out to dinner needed to be mentioned, but it's played out. Everyone does it. We get it. It's great, but we didn't want to have it have a real top 10 spot.
It's like when Sarah omitted like salt and pepper from her spices list. Like it's the most like ubiquitous of all the spices. So
yeah, right. This reminded me of the from Good Will Hunting when he asks the Skylar if she wants to go out to eat a bowl of caramels. And she's like, what? And he's like, well, it's just something just as arbitrary as going out for a meal or going out to have coffee. And going out to dinner is a very arbitrary thing to do on a date. But it's very common. Really, it's common for a reason. It's lovely. It's a good date.
For sure.
Yeah.
Conversation throughout, typically.
Food.
Yeah, satisfying.
You learn a lot about the person.
That's right. Their likes, their dislikes.
Yep.
At least in the food realm. Potentially, their location choice would tell you a lot about the person. Anyway.
Yeah. A lot of dates found out a lot about Alex when he was choosing where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, kiddos. What about number 10?
Go for it.
So, number 10, we have we've included a group of activities, water activities. Specifically, we were thinking about boating or water skiing, tubing, lazy river, stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking or canoeing.
Those are good ones.
Yeah. So typically we were thinking
like kayak or canoe.
Yeah, right? Kayak or canoe, and then wanted to expand it to like a stand-up paddleboard. But just something where you typically can have a conversation, but you're still out and doing something fun and being active. Sunset kayak rides, we did that while we were in Belize, were just really delightful.
Beautiful.
The key was to go against the tide on the way out and then just kind of cruise on the way back in. But they're really fun unless you're both horrendous kayakers, and then they're less fun.
I will say it's one that can test your relationship, either with your significant other or with your family. I went with my brother and my dad once, and we thought we were all going to kill each other. So it's one that can tell you a lot about the person you're dating if you don't know them very well. If you get a boat full of spiders, for example.
I think it would be fun to assess all of these through the lens of if they would make a good first date or not, because this is a very
interesting point.
This is a very high, we just and I do this all the time. If we go on a date and we'll ask each other like halfway or towards the end of the date, like if this had been our first date, would I have gotten another one? And
great game.
It's a really good
What's your hit rate?
More times than you would think, and probably more than we would like. The answer is no. But this is one, it's super high risk, high reward, because if you get the right person, like you two, for example, had you gone on your first date and done this, it would have been like, oh yeah, this is great. But it also could end up spectacularly wrong. And so you could end up not having a second date.
Right.
I would tend to think like there's a certain scenario of water sport date where one person horrendously cuts their eye, and then you get married because you've enjoyed such an ordeal and such an experience together that you're just like, you know what, screw it, we're going to Vegas. Like this, we've already experienced all the ups and downs of a relationship. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, that's a very specific thing. And Emma recently spent 6 hours in the ER from a water skiing accident.
Lots of stitches.
We may post a real close-up of that on the show's Instagram.
It was a wild injury.
Yeah,
but you look great now. You can't even tell.
Thank you. There's a little scar.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. She's rubbing a lot of
Mederma
on it.
Keeping it protected. So, but yeah, what water activities like this, like going on a kayak ride, it could be a 3-hour thing if you're going down a river. If you want to bail, not an easy first date to bail on.
Good point.
Yeah, your friend's not calling you and telling you like, you know, they need help with their moving a couch in the middle of that. You can't like have the classic rom-com setup where a friend's calling you in the middle of the date to rescue you.
No, it could just, I got to move a couch, let's paddle faster, and that's still not that great. So that's our number 10.
And then our number 9, we have classes, like a pottery class or a wine and painting class. These are some of our favorites. I think in large part because it was something we had never done before, something that we may or may not have been comfortable doing. And we got to kind of learn it together and do it together. And then it was fun to have something to come home. It's a great conversation piece. We have a couple alpacas in kind of psychedelic colors at our house that we created together.
One sits above our master bathroom toilet, so while you're peeing, you get to look and an alpaca llama just right in the eyes. It's really wonderful. And then we have the pottery adorning our mantle.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys done either of these?
We have done a cooking class. We made pasta together, which was tons of fun, but it turned into a kind of a competition. Like, the gay couple next to us, like, their raviolis were so perfect, and we were like, damn it. But it still ended up being a ton of fun, and we got to eat all the pasta we made. So that's a good one.
Yeah, so Caroline and I did a really cool one recently where we made an Adirondack chair, which I think I mentioned in the pod.
That
would have been an insanely intense first date.
Yes.
Because you got like 3 hours in the morning in some stranger's shed, and then a lunch break, and then 3 more hours in his shed, doing a very difficult task that could really kind of not go great. So that probably wouldn't be a great first date.
Yeah.
But that was an absolute blast. I think the cooking class, of which we've done several, including an Indian class at a woman's house, was as much fun as I've had on a date. So I think the classes thing is an outstanding idea. And I like this one because I think it expresses something good about you, which is that you're somebody who wants to grow. Because in a relationship, there's almost nothing more important as the relationship goes on than two people grow. Because if you still like the person for exactly the reasons you liked them when you first started dating, that's not a good sign. So I think this is a good throughout the relationship date.
I agree completely.
Yeah, I was pretty resistant to wine and painting because I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
But you did great. His is the llama that's above the toilet that everybody used to see.
Yeah, but yours is in the living room.
I did not make that choice.
That's true. I wanted to look at my llama.
Excuse me? I look at my llama all the time. I'm going to look at my llama the moment we're done recording.
Wow, there's a young child right there, Mike.
He doesn't speak English. Or Spanish, because I assume llama is Spanish.
He spent the last week in Portugal, so he's just on Portuguese.
Yeah,
right now.
fine.
So he's picking up bits and pieces.
Yeah, just a little bit here and there.
So that's our number 9, our like pottery or art classes. Our grouping there was more like an art class.
Yeah.
Number 8, we have guided tours.
You guys are great.
So
These are fantastic.
So a few of these that we've done and have really loved. We did some food tours in Chicago.
Kyle was part of one of them, weren't you? You and Allegius? Or was that a different day?
We did we ended at Quinn's favorite deep dish place. That was a very good tour.
Yeah, that was a really good one. And then we did, like a beer tasting at Sam Adams. Did a cocoa farm in Costa Rica.
Oh,
that one was really
really cool.
Not what you expect.
I'm in love with the cocoa. That sounds great.
Not that cocoa, Mike.
Oh, okay.
And then on that one, we even got to make some hot chocolate at the end from some fresh ground cacao. It was awesome.
That's
Get out of
really
here.
neat.
It was really cool.
Yeah, and the Freedom Trail, a nature hike we did in Costa Rica, and then a pineapple plantation we did in the Azores. So just kind of something you would have no idea about.
Do you know pineapples grow in like little bushes?
No.
Pineapple plants are
they just grew right out of the sand.
They're very odd plants.
Under the
it would
sea.
be worth a Google. You're kind of bored one time.
Like Googling what it looks like.
Yeah, because it almost looks like a pineapple in the middle of a fern.
That is not what I pictured. Plants. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're pretty small plants.
So the pineapple though is dangling, right? It's not like a potato, is it?
It's above ground, but the base, like the green leaves, are the top. So it grows. It's sitting as if you just placed it in a bush.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
That sounds incredibly amusing.
I enjoyed it.
It's pretty delightful.
I'm really enjoying the Google images. They're fantastic.
I'm going to be Googling this after. I want to give a quick Chicago plug for one that's not as exciting as seeing pineapples, but I think we've all done it. That architectural boat tour of Chicago
forgot about that.
That is One of my best dates ever was with my sister. It was probably my greatest date ever. Sorry, Caroline. Nicole and I, we did the architecture tour, and then we ended up getting lunch at Smith and Walensky because we didn't know what it was, and we got these coffee and cocoa rubbed, dry aged bone-in filet mignon. Oh, it was incredible. It was just one of the best days of my life. It's so great. So that's a terrific date, is that boat tour in Chicago if you find yourself
Best
there.
when it's not raining.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is
Agreed.
true.
That's my go-to when people come here, because like going to the Bean is kind of overrated and that kind of thing, but the architecture tour is always a delight. It's a crowd pleaser.
I'm so sorry, listeners. Google a pineapple now. If you're driving, pull over.
Speaking of Googling,
It's just weird.
Hilarious.
Speaking of Googling pineapples, have you ever... Yeah, this actually ties in quite nicely. Have you ever looked up pineapple on Urban Dictionary?
No.
Oh, jeez.
It's my favorite Urban Dictionary definition because it says, a pineapple is a fruit, you dumb fuck. Why are you looking up pineapple on Urban Dictionary?
That is incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I love a good guided tour. We did this is not really a date so much, but we did for Dylan's birthday last weekend, me, Legis, Dill, Tates, and Dill's friend Brandon. We all went on like a bus tour of like several breweries, which is obviously a great group activity, but also like sneakily could be a great one-on-one date too, especially because by the end of it you're like fairly toasty.
Right.
I feel like some of these dates, what they share in common is that they don't force too much intimacy, but they allow for intimacy.
Yes.
Like these kind of allow you to dial the intimacy up or down depending on how much you want. Because like that, point. You have the ride to and from, which can be real togetherness time or chit chat. Like you don't have to stare deeply into somebody's soul for several hours, which as somebody who hasn't been on a first date in a little bit of time, I can't imagine enjoying just looking deeply into a new person's eyes for an extended period of time. So this sounds nice.
That's kind of why I didn't want dinner on the actual list itself, because you're just sitting there and granted there's food, which I love.
Yeah.
But most of these other ones provide you something to actually physically do. To not distract from the day, but I think to kind of add to it and allow you opportunities to talk about what you're doing or what you did or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, it's a good conversation starter for a lot of them, and also hopefully gets you to experience something new and maybe even get out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yep. Quick update for the listeners out there. Our young friend here is eating some yogurt puffs, I think they're called. And yes, as you can hear, he managed to get one in his mother's tea. Oh, she drank more of it. My goodness. That is
not
a mom.
a great combo.
She is a mom. Yep.
Would not recommend.
She has crossed over to the other side. She's now drinking regurgitated baby food in her tea. That's they don't advertise that at the store for infusions, but this one is baby yogurt puff
should
infused.
they.
Yeah. I don't think they're gonna start.
All right, kids. So that what number was that? Was that 8?
That was 8.
You know what that means.
I think we need some help from Kevin.
Hey, young man, do you think you could cue that music for us? Say something. Just say something. Ba-da-boop. Oh, come on.
He's been talking
Come
all
on.
day, but
You've been talking all day. Just say something. Come on, cue that music. Don't pinch him, but like maybe pinch him a little. Come on, you're so quiet now. You've been talking all day.
How loud's the
Tell Kevin to play that music.
Ah!
There was a grunt. Something.
We heard a grunt. Hey, thanks, Kev. That was some great music. Those were some really stanky beats.
Yes. Thanks, young man, for cueing the music.
Thanks, young fella. You done good. Also, your dad definitely just said your name. We're gonna bleep that part out.
Oh yeah, I did.
You did. It's okay. We'll edit that out. All right. So not tops.
Oh yeah.
So these not tops are again very much so influenced by our experience.
Mhm.
These are things that we did that may or may not have been planned as dates, but definitely could qualify as a date that one or both of us very much disliked. Usually me. So one being shopping.
Rarely a good idea.
Yeah, I am not a big shopper, whether it's for me or for someone else. And I just want to be out of there as soon as possible. So I'm not a joy to have shopping.
Nope. Can't attest.
Would not get a second date on that one.
No.
Dick!
Another one are infant portraits. When we took our boy to get his 3-month portraits, it was loud and it was busy, and the JCPenney people kept trying to upsell us, and they were just generally a mess, and they missed our appointment by like an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
And I was not invited back to the 6-month portraits.
You were actively not invited.
I do think
You were
that
forbidden.
This
Yeah.
helps explain a little bit of why I think it would be very difficult to date with a child. Like,
Yes.
let's say you split up with your partner, or God forbid your partner died, and you've got a kid, and you're a single person with a kid or whatever. That is got to be a challenge, because it makes the logistics of every hang
So
more
much more
complicated. Like, think about all these things. Like, oh man, I'm single. I'm newly single. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go kayaking to meet my partner. Gotta find a babysitter, or there's a kid on the front of the kayak.
Changes the mood.
Or it's like, oh, hey girl, it's so nice to meet you. You want to come to my 3-month portrait for my baby? Like, that's tough. Yeah, you're right, buddy.
Yeah.
It is tough. Yeah.
I will say with those infant portraits, though, I take some responsibility for it, because I knew as soon as I walked into the store, it was not going to go well. I've done them before with my brother, and not Quinn's cup of tea. Next, this one actually could be quite a bit of fun, but was on our top 3 because we were so bad at it. It's sailing. We did this on our honeymoon, and I mean, it was a funny memory. We have some great pictures from it, but we were terrible. We got nowhere.
Mostly, the wind took us out, and then we had to jump into the water, hold onto a rope, and swim back.
Oh my god.
We were atrocious.
So set the scene a little bit. So you're in
The
like a
Bahamas.
small 2-person
Yes.
type sailing boat. This is
Yes.
a small vessel with
Yes.
the 2 of you.
It's almost like 2 pontoons
Yeah.
with canvas strewn across the middle, and then a
Gotcha.
sail.
I think there's a
So it's
specific
like-
name for that kind of boat, but I
Yeah.
don't remember what it is.
So it's with the understanding that like you might even pack a picnic and make out or something. Like, this is
Oh,
supposed
yes.
to be sort
it
of
could
like
be quite romantic.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the idea.
Mhm.
So the wind took us out, and then we tried to turn back around and just kept going further down the beach. And so eventually we would just alternate
to
jumping
abandon
in
ship,
and
if you will.
swimming it back.
This sounds like there are a lot of like outwardly seemingly extremely romantic dates that might just go awry, like horseback riding on the beach. I feel like sounds like a great time,
Yeah.
but then the horse is like pooping all over the beach, and like you
Yeah.
can't quite keep him on the right path or whatever.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
a really good point.
Yep.
This kind of feels like it falls into a certain category. I'm thinking about an activity that Quinn, Kyle, and I did recently that was quite fun, but could have been disastrous, which is curling. Like, I think theoretically a curling date could be a blast, but there's also a really good chance that it's just not doable.
Right.
Like, I think our group, for the most part, met the baseline of athletic ability and coordination to get to have that be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been very reasonable not to meet that threshold, and you'd have thought you were having a great date, and it just could have been miserable.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, or like someone could slip and break their tailbone, or
Very-
like
without really stretching your imagination,
You're
like, that
on
could have
ice.
happened. Yeah,
So yes, this kind of falls into the dates that should be fun but just went wrong. So,
Yeah.
like, sailing's on our not top, but I understand a lot of people probably love sailing,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
probably a wonderful thing
If you know how to do it.
if you know how to do it. We did not.
yeah.
Our number 1, not top 3, is doctor's appointments. Specifically, OB-GYN appointments.
Oh my god! In what world is this a date?
So it wasn't really a date, but
Goodness gracious, people!
But it was just
This
the
is
two
a
of
bad
us.
first date.
Holy crap!
Yeah, no, that'd be an
First
awful
date.
first
Not
date.
You're
the
like,
second first
oh
date.
my god! I gotta get my cooter checked out. Could you come with me?
Hey,
Oh,
could you just stop by with me? Because it's
yeah.
gonna
Do
be
you
real
mind
quick.
standing on the business end while I'm up in the stirrups? Like Jesus! Good lord!
Uh,
I mean, as
That's
as,
my butthole. My god.
maybe this is a really good first date, depending on
Yeah,
your perspective.
like man, oh man, things must have gone. It must have gone some kind of way.
Hey, Mike, how was your date, Mike? Like, oh, I saw her butthole, and you're like, oh, it went really well. It's like, no, it went really,
I'm
really
not totally
poorly.
sure how it went.
Oh.
Yeah, that date was not middling. There's no way you had a middling date that ended at a gyno.
No.
No. So we had one that was actually good when we found out whether
The
our
sex
son
of
was
our
going to be
baby.
a boy or a
Okay.
girl.
Yep.
That was very nice.
But my mom was also there.
Oh, God. Jeez.
Okay, so we're all in the not tops.
Yeah, goodness. Damn it. That actually sounded like you said not top. Thanks, buddy. You're right.
I'm just gonna edit that and put it back in front of the Q part.
That's it. There we go.
Jeez.
Anyway.
Wow.
We had. I can think of one that is similar in that I think this is actually could be a great first date, but we had a bad experience. Legis and I saw like a sign on on a street pole or something for open mic night, and we thought that would be a ton of fun. And it wouldn't be surprising if this was actually on your list somehow. But it became clear when we got there, and I understand now that this is kind of what open mic night is, just generally. It was like 7 people that all really knew each other and like did this all the time.
Jeez.
And so it was like definitely a little bit weird that they were there and like they were not very good. And so like I've been to a lot of great open mic nights, but this was not one of them. It was a slog. I think that was when we started doing that game of, because I think either she or I said like, man, if this had been our first date, that would have been it.
Yeah. Through no fault of your own.
Yeah, no, it was a great idea. I think it was Allegius's idea to go.
It's also a tough situation because you're like, if there weren't just 9 people there, you could have left.
Word.
You said it.
But with that few, it's like there's no sneaking out of there.
That's
Precisely.
a really good point. I got one that is kind of on the could go great, could go terribly, and the folks in my family have all had different views on this, which is family time. So, well, this is really, I'm talking early, because later on,
Yeah.
if family time is not a positive thing, that's either a very bad sign for the relationship, or it's because there's some other circumstances with the family that,
Yes.
have nothing to do with the relationship. But later on, family time, that should be in the rotation, or at least be an option. But early on, I would say I leaned into the Caroline being in my family's rotation early, which I thought was a good idea. But definitely later on, I realized, you're meeting a person for us who was like 16 before we had our relationship rhythm down. So it's a high risk thing.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and when Felicia brought Seamus around, she did so only after they had been dating for a little bit, and she told us in no uncertain terms, this is a serious boyfriend. I'm probably marrying him. Be nice, and I don't care what you think. So she learned from the experience that I had with Caroline and that Nicole had with Steve, where we were like, hey, bring him in and introduce him to everybody, and you're on display early on before there's really a relationship. That's a risky ass move.
It is
It's a
risky.
great way to
Really risky.
accelerate the closeness.
Yes.
And
Yes.
for us, I'm very glad that was the route
Yes.
I went.
Well,
But you've got to pick your spots.
Yes.
and it can go really, really well because
Yes, and it did.
Yeah, but like for us, for example, Quinn, you were there. I don't know if you remember this. My family came to help move me out after I think like our freshman or sophomore year, something like that.
Mhm.
And it was my family, and then you and Allegius. So we all went to dinner across the street, and like neither of you knew my family, and it was a lot. But like in that case, it really helped me kind of like make the case for myself because the interaction was so positive. I think that like definitely contributed to us starting to date soon after that. So like you said, Mike, like that could have gone spectacularly wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely. It also, you have to kind of make the call whether this is a feature of the relationship that you intend to be a part of it later. So like for you, that's not really an optional, and same with me. It's not an optional part of the relationship. Like I was never going to seriously date somebody who wasn't going to spend a lot of time with my family.
Right.
Yeah.
You need at least Sundays.
Yes, that's true.
Sundays during Pat season.
Mm-hmm. Even if they're on their phone the whole time. Turd. All right, number 7?
Sure.
Yeah.
For number 7, we had adventure activities, which is kind of similar to our number 10, but we separated it because they're a little more intensive. So, like, for example, whitewater rafting or canyoning or ziplining or scuba diving, stuff that's pretty involved. We have it up higher than water activities because I think there's a higher threshold for fun. Again, this would be potentially disastrous for a first date.
Or great. Just kind of depends
awesome,
how adventurous the person is. But you kind of have that like level of anxiety and fear and excitement that you share with the other person, which are all pretty strong emotions. So it kind of creates a little bit of a bonding session there.
Definitely.
Particularly when you're done with the activity.
Yeah. I want to say I tried to have this be a feature of my relationship early on, and I know Kyle knows this. My favorite place on earth is a furniture store in Massachusetts because I love furniture.
Jordan's.
Because it has an incredibly enormous and wonderful movie theater, but also because it used to have a trapeze school. Ooh. And I think you know. I maybe you don't. They used to have a trapeze school there where you could take trapeze lessons. And when Caroline and I first started dating in high school, I was very clear to her that I wanted to go. Like I was put in no uncertain terms. Like take me for my birthday sometime. I said I'm not going to be the one who does it because I want it to be a gift to me. But give me this gift. Does not give me this gift. Does not give me this gift. Trapeze school closes.
Oh.
So it must have been 2 or 3 years ago now, Caroline, in a gesture of trying to make up for this, took us up to New Hampshire to go ziplining. And it was a magnificently enjoyable experience and totally made up for her bungled date idea from years ago. So I'm so on board with this. We had an absolute blast. Caroline is a little bit of a scaredy cat with these kinds of things. And so we had a very nice time bonding over this crazy experience.
Yeah. So I'm not good with heights whatsoever.
Very bad.
Like very, very bad. Mm-hmm. So if any of the like zip lining or like stuff that's pretty high up would not be a good first date with me because I would be so anxious I would shut down.
Oh but my god, I thought you were just about to say chart or something.
Well, you might. You might. You never know. But a little later on, it's good.
Yeah. We had a ton of fun in Costa Rica, especially doing most of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know if we've done would you consider like hiking and camping to be a part of this group, or that's separate?
We talked about this at length. I think we decided they were separate.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't take that much convincing to.
And it also depends on the hike. Like if you're just hiking along
that's a good point.
River Greenway, that's one thing, but you could have some really intense hikes that I think would definitely qualify.
I just know like we've got a lot of, not us, we're not really like super outdoorsy people, but we have a lot of friends that like that's their thing. Like that is like partially why they're married. Like we have a couple couples like this where like they just love to go like to wild places and hike, and they just like go out with their tents and they don't come back for 2 weeks, and like that's not really a date. But like even on a day, like a daily thing, they'll just go out and hike all day and then come back. So like I think that's and sorry if I'm totally spoiling higher on your list. I just think that if it's not, it should be mentioned in here.
That's fair. And so I think like going and camping for a few weeks would definitely be an adventure thing.
Yeah.
Any camping I've done, Emma and I have never gone camping together, but any camping I've done has been more glamping, like there are bathrooms.
Yeah.
Like
that's what I was going to say. Anytime you're pooping outdoors, I'd call that adventure.
Yeah, for sure. I've only ever been where there's a bathroom 100 yards away and I can catch a shower whenever I want.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing. There's electricity if you need it. So that's like less adventurous to me. But I think if you were like backpacking to a place where you then go camp, it's like that's
Absolutely.
I think that fits in this. We just haven't done it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, you think
Yeah.
so?
You're into camping too, huh?
Yep.
yep.
We'll get you there.
Okay, so for number 6, we have live entertainment or sporting events.
Mm.
The
So
old standby.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's right. So concerts, a couple that we've done that we've loved were the Lone Bellow and the Lumineers.
Those are our top 2.
Yeah, comedy shows. Kyle, you and Allegius were with us for a Second City show.
It was one of my favorites.
Sure were.
Yeah, especially when they got right up in your face
Yeah.
and yelled about your mother, which was very funny.
Yeah.
Didn't
That was
just yell. Yelled for a long and loud time.
Kind of like
example.
that.
I believe he told me that one of his top 3 likes on what dating site is it where you have to put your top 3 interests? And the first 2
Hello
were
Cupid, I think.
the first 2 were an unsavory word, and the third one was my mom. And he let me know.
That's right. That's what it was.
Awesome.
And then also like live theater. We've seen Hamilton or Dracula. Sporting events. We love going to.
Hold up, did you see Dracula?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Where-
awesome.
You
Wow.
saw Dracula like performed on stage?
Yeah, in Louisville. There's a really cool theater where the stage is in the middle of kind of a square and the seats go up on all
That's
sides.
really
So you can,
Whoa.
every time you go, if you sit on a different side, you see it from a different angle. It was really, really cool. And
That's
they can come up the
incredible.
stairway. Spook you.
Whoa.
I think
Yes.
so.
It was
He seems
very
to be
scary
scared of
to go
vampires.
up and down the aisles.
Yeah. This is a great one. I think another common theme from all of these is that they give you a great memory to talk about
Yes.
and share together later.
Yes.
But I think this in particular is the feature of this type of date because at the time you're having less intense togetherness,
Yes.
but later you have
Right.
a lot of fodder for conversation and common thought. Like it's
Right.
really cool if you go see Dracula with somebody, you get to talk about what Dracula means to you afterwards
right.
in a really cool and intimate way because you shared this one experience together that
Right.
will not be recreated exactly the
Yeah.
same way.
It almost requires either something afterwards to kind of discuss
Yes.
or a
Yeah.
second date.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
great point. It's a good
Or-
scam for a second date.
Hey, you want to get back
It's like-
together and talk about that?
Yeah, like what if you went to a one-time only concert and you don't know anybody else who went? It's like, who the hell am I going to talk about this with?
Right.
Like, that guy was a jerk and he smelled, but I got to talk to somebody about this.
That's right. Well, that's like sporting events are good because that's the only one of those where you could actually talk a bit during, like you're not really
Yeah.
talking that
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Theater performance.
Hopefully.
Right. Hopefully. But like sporting events,
You'd
you
not
could,
get a
so-
second date from me if you would.
No.
So that's the old standby of live entertainment.
That's a good one.
And then, so number 5 is actually number 1 in our hearts, but we decided to move it down a little bit because I imagine there's a lot of people that would enjoy it less or be less comfortable. We have going to a farmer's market and cooking a meal from what we get there.
Oh.
And so this one can be a little bit tricky because you have to come up with something. Ours tended to be the same thing every week, but we would get some nice bread and olive oil, maybe some balsamic. We got fresh mozzarella cheese one time. It was fabulous, and fresh basil, and we made a caprese salad. That was delectable.
Really, really good.
Theo liked it too.
And then the farmer's market normally has some good treats. We would have some chocolate chip cookies with it, or
yeah, we made good
brioche.
friends there.
yeah.
When we
Friend
visited
people.
you all a while back, and we went to the farmer's market and then went back to your place to cook all the many wares that we had purchased. That was like the best day ever. And if you had as a couple been trying to woo me into a second date, you for sure would have gotten it. What a delight.
It was one of our favorite things.
We did it almost every weekend we were home.
every weekend we were home. Yeah, it was just on Saturday we'd go to the farmer's market and then come up with something for lunch and dinner based on what we got there.
That's great.
One of my faves.
Yeah.
And it's delicious because whatever you're getting tends to be in season.
Fresh.
It
Yep.
changes. It like on the meals. Like a lot of times we would get something similar with like the bread and the olive oils and like the basil and whatnot. But then what vegetables you're getting
Changes.
and what meat you're getting to go with those vegetables changes a lot. So you get some good variety depending on what time of year it is.
Sure, buddy. You okay?
Yeah, that's a fantastic one. I love the pick.
And it's just reinforcing how great you two are for me.
That's a definite side benefit of this.
Yes.
All right, so that brings us to number 4, I believe.
Sure do.
Okay, so number
Thank you.
4, we have getting drinks. And normally when we talk about this, we talk about getting some nice cocktail somewhere, whether it's a little speakeasy. That's always a really fun one. We were doing this thing where each of us would plan a date and not tell the other one what it was until we got there. We would just tell them
That's beautiful.
what
fun.
day it was, what time it was, and like the approximate attire.
That is
kids.
so sexy. Oh my god.
And
Yeah.
one of them,
Went from 6 to midnight just hearing, thinking about this.
one of them that we planned was a trip to the speakeasy, and you enter in through like this little gift shop just off the main street in Louisville, and you go in, and then they swipe a card over the wall, and a door pops out of the wall.
My God.
It was
You
really
go
What
downstairs into this basement bar, and they have some of the best cocktails you'll ever have. But also, just getting coffee is also pretty good. To plug a few of our favorite places, the Speakeasy in Louisville is called Hell or High Water.
Fabulous.
Also, another great one there is Proof on Main. We got some like bourbon cocktails with a smoked orange peel. They would light it on fire and have the smoke like infiltrate the glass.
Damn.
That's
I
nice.
actually cannot speak to those ones because I was pregnant when we went.
Oh, that's right. Emily was a good sport and let me.
Their
drink.
lemonades were fabulous.
And then also just across the river from Louisville in New Albany is the Exchange. Those are some of our favorite places to go.
I
but
want to
just
talk
really
about
anywhere.
this speakeasy concept a little bit because so I know that this isn't just about speakeasy, so we'll get to the general drinks part in a second. But as far as speakeasies go, for those listeners out there who might be a little bit younger who are thinking about going on dates, if it's a first date and the person tells you they're going to take you to a candy store and go through a weird back door and they're going to push a button, do not go with that person. I'm talking to you
If the back door
specifically.
comes up at all, get out.
Yeah, Claire. If it comes time, you want to go on a date with a boy, we're very happy for you on this top 10 pod. Do not go on this specific date.
Yeah.
Both because you're underage and more importantly because this is a weird trap they're trying to lure you into. However, if you're with somebody you really trust, what a wonderful date.
Yes, trusted relationship, very good.
Yes. I think what's interesting, my parents and I have had an ongoing conversation, and I mean like 10 years, about whether the things that I have experienced are different from the things that they've experienced because time has gone on and generations have passed, or because I'm just coming from a better off background than they were. And so, it's just funny hearing drinks, and what I'm thinking of as drinks is like a 20-something yuppie, is I'm thinking of, some sort of cocktail with egg whites in it, or some cedar smoked. I think my parents, either because it's their generation or because they just grew up poorer than I did, it's like a Bud Light. So it's funny. I think that the basic tenor of the drinks date is very different depending where you're from
Absolutely.
and what your background is.
Yeah, I think our intention of it was something where you are going to be you're experiencing some new flavors, something you haven't had before.
Somebody's wearing a lab coat as they drop bitters into your drink.
Right.
It also provides a good way, an opportunity to just talk, which I suppose that is true for dinner as well, but it's easier to talk with after a sip than with a lot of food in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's true. Good point.
And
I will say I'm sorry.
Nope, go for it. I lost my train of thought.
I'll just say there's not you can, but the thing with getting drinks is you can tack that onto any of these other dates.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a nice pre or post date kind of warm up or wind down. I'll also say you have to be careful with the speakeasy because you can get more than you bargained for sometimes. We went to a speakeasy bar where you have to go down these stairs and it looks like you're going to the bathroom and then it's behind a bookshelf. But it's like a stage. It's very dark and there's a stage and every hour somebody performs something. And we saw a very, very lewd burlesque dancer, which ended up being.
boy.
It was fun. It was
Did
cool.
you see nipples?
we saw much more than that. It was
Oh my word!
it was it was a lot, which like ended up being fun, but just be careful because you never know what you might see.
Might not be a good first date.
Yeah, do some research beforehand, I suppose.
Kyle went for drinks and genitals. That's a lot.
I didn't plan that date. It was not my fault. I mean, like I said, no one's fault. It was a good date. I don't know.
I feel like there's a lot of you know how there's like a smoke and a pancake, a blintz and a blood. I'm thinking of a lot of these, like bourbon and beaver. Like,
all right,
you know, there's a lot of variations on this.
That we don't
Pinot and penis. Like, I don't know.
This is another top 10.
Negroni and nipples. I don't know. I probably could keep going.
Have you ever thought about doing marketing for
Buds
strip
and
clubs?
Bush. I don't know.
Patron and never mind.
Oh man. All right. So drinks are a popular thing. Right, buddy?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so that takes us to our honorables.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just
A couple of pod vets just knowing right where the honorables are. I love it.
We've been here before.
Mm-hmm.
We're such vets. We thought we could handle our son while we did this. Because he's supposed to be napping right now.
He's a very positive addition to this show right now. He is addition by addition.
Okay, so we have kind of a bunch of honorables. We'll go through most of them pretty quickly. We had having like your own show, so kind of a stay-at-home date. Where like ours was Parks and Rec. That was pretty fundamental in the beginning of our relationship.
I think they call this Netflix and chill now. I think that's what the kids call it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is. Hey, stop it. Traveling was one that we originally wanted to have kind of high on the list because it's one of our favorite things to do, but because you can do so many of the other things as part of traveling, also the actual traveling itself, like the airplane, usually kind of sucks.
Good point. Yeah, there's a lot of things about traveling that require extreme closeness.
Or extreme patience, which is hard if you don't know a person very well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have running or like a workout, going on a bike ride is another one we enjoy doing, but may not be everybody's cup of tea.
I think the workout's a good one though. It's definitely, I'm sure there's some science behind it. It's like doing physical activity with somebody. It's very romantic. It could be a little sensual. It's a good thing.
Not when we do it.
I know. I need to get better workout clothes. I'm always wearing like gross old stuff that smells from my hockey days. Mm-hmm. So like imagining the version of me who's on the market, like trying to take ladies out to work out for dates. They're like, your clothes are terrible and you stink.
Yes.
And you don't smell good.
That was
too easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess we had playing a sport. We had hiking on here. Mm-hmm. Axe throwing was another kind of similar but different one that we had a blast doing, but it was so niche we thought it probably didn't deserve a spot.
That feels a little bit like escape room, like sort of
that was on there too.
Like extremely themed.
Yes.
Like extreme theme date is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We had museums on there. Movies we had on the honorables only because you really can't talk during those. And then if that's all you do, it just, like, I don't know.
Yeah. That does usually require a little tack on. Like, if you're going to do movies, you usually have to have something.
You have to combo it. Dinner and a movie.
Yeah. I know we'll probably break this stuff down a little bit more later, but museums is going to be one that I'm going to stump for because...
Agreed.
I'll get into it later, but Caroline and I had our first like real date at a museum, so I want to talk about that a little bit.
And we figured museums also included like zoos and aquariums and that sort of thing.
That's reasonable.
It
was
a pretty hard one to cut for us.
It was the second to last thing we cut from this list.
I'm picturing this ending up on the list.
That's perfectly fine. I think the reason we discarded it was because we had guided tours on there, and they're similar enough that I don't know. We had a hard time that we'll discuss.
Okay.
We're open to adding that one on here. I think that was... Oh, we had, like, road trips, especially listening to audiobooks or podcasts. I think that was... Oh, and then the last one was ice cream, which is another one we had a hard time mixing, but we add it to almost all of our dates. Just general,
hiking and ice cream.
General outings. We get
Scuba diving and ice cream.
So we put it on the honorable instead of a date itself.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I was going to mention it, but not maybe stump for it, just because Allegius and I, when we were in Australia, a way that we forced ourselves to kind of explore was we did what we called ice cream Sundays, where on Sunday we would find a new place to get ice cream, and it kind of forces you, as you look for new places each week, to kind of expand your circle. So just deciding we're going to go get ice cream, going to do it, and then returning is a pretty good date. I recommend that for those of you who are looking for stuff to do on Sundays.
So I love this idea, and I'm very impressed that you were able to pull this off. And your relationship with Allegius when you came back from Australia was a very different one from when you went. It was much closer, so clearly you had some measure of success with this. I am a person who loves ice cream, but knows exactly what it does to me. And we don't need to get too deep into what it does to me, but I'll say this.
Not a great date thing.
Not a great date thing for Michael.
Gotcha.
Or
love ice cream. Have done plenty of ice cream dates with Caroline, but it's usually shortly followed thereafter by, we don't have to talk about exactly what, but it's an unpleasant car ride and then I fall asleep. So I think that brings us back to the body of the list.
That's right.
Absolutely. So at number 3, we have holiday activities or festivals. So one that we have is pumpkin picking, also pumpkin carving.
Ooh, great pick.
Pumpkin Spectacular is a great pumpkin festival in Louisville where there are over 5,000 carved pumpkins, a lot of them done by artists. It's really fantastic.
Word.
Like really accurate depictions of Darth Vader and like Elton John and everything in between.
I love around that time of year. I always wait for your picks because they've come the last few years. I really enjoy them. I like the Jon Snow one a lot.
It's
I do remember. I think I remember seeing that one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's really, really fantastic. Going to see Christmas lights, Christmas tree hunting, decorating a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
All of those sort of things. One of Emma and I's early dates was I went and visited her and her family in Fort Wayne, and we went to German Fest and bought lots of pitchers of German beer and played quarters there for like 3 hours.
Oh my God. That's a good date.
It was a really good date. And then they had competitions. They had competitions called Ferkelwurst stuffing, which is they had like little stuffed pigs and you had to shove them into pantyhose like a sausage. But you had to like sprint across the thing, go grab one and then get it back. And it was just really a blast. So we love Ferkelwurst stuffing now, apparently.
Of course.
And then there's a goat racing festival in Louisville that we would love to go to.
Are there people or creatures on the goats?
No, it's just goats.
Okay.
So it's like right around the same time. It's during the Kentucky Derby
Oh,
Festival.
I know about this.
Yeah.
My coworker who's from Louisville was telling me about this.
Yeah, so like back in the day when the rich people would go to the Kentucky
Yes.
Derby, the poorer people in Louisville would race goats.
We might have even somehow talked about this on your Gadgets podcast, because I've heard this.
Oh, you're right.
This sounds right. I think you're right about this. Maybe it was you who told me about this and not my coworker.
That might be the case. Anyway, it's fantastic. So that's some of our favorite things are just going to festivals and then holiday topical things. I think you can oftentimes do it with an early date or later on in a relationship. It's just something fun and get you in the spirit.
That's a fantastic one. I think you just said it right there, the get you in the spirit thing, because the thing about a relationship and the thing about these dates that I'm definitely noticing a theme is it's all about the next date and the next phase. And like, it's the excitement of continuing to spend time with this person. And the thing about holiday festivals that marks them as different than just like festivals is they're about something that's coming up and extending like your time with this person. So I know Caroline and I have done this many times. We've done Christmas markets in Boston. We did a really cool Christmas market in London that I love. And it's a really cool way of both having a nice time while you're doing it, but also getting excited about more time celebrating that holiday with your special someone.
Very well said. Yeah, Allegius and I every year do this was on your not top, but we always do like all of our Christmas shopping is like one big day. and like make a big date out of it where we get, hot chocolate and try to ice skate and stuff like that. So it's like, it's when it tis the season, it's also the season for good dates.
Absolutely. Ice skating is a great one to throw into the holiday activities.
Yeah.
That was a blast.
And we've had a great ice skating experience together.
That's right.
Already.
We have. Wonderful.
It was the first time I met Caroline.
Yeah, I think it would have been.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, it was.
It was probably pretty early in my time with you, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good times, people. I'm glad we all agreed to have another date.
Very good. Very good. All right. So our number 2 activity is going for a walk. And then while going on a walk, people watching and especially dog watching.
Yeah. I knew this was coming.
Again, this is about the future.
That's right.
This is about like what are you establishing together?
Yep. Exactly. It's a good way to explore the city. It's also typically pretty scenic. So we loved going on the walking bridge when we were in Louisville, going over to Indiana, southern Indiana there. We're taking the 606 in Chicago. And then just going on walks if you're in a new city on vacation or exploring. It's a great thing you can tack onto a date. It's a good hand-holding opportunity. It's a good time for talking.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's good. It's good. It's just overall
Quinn's got
a
moves.
positive experience.
Oh yeah.
Plus, you can do things like walk to ice cream.
Yeah.
Yes, that is also. You could walk briskly and make an exercise. You could walk slowly and hope you walk off that ice cream and just fart away from the person.
You
There's
can
a
walk
lot.
in the forest in hiking boots.
Yes.
Call it hiking.
Also true. This is a terrific one. I really like this
I
pick.
like the versatility.
It's so
of this one.
simple, but it's so true. This is such a staple of a good relationship.
It typically spurs conversation.
Mhm.
There's things to do especially if it's early on and you're not quite, you're still getting to know each other and there's a lull in the conversation. The activity kind of covers it up a little bit and smooths it over until you can switch to something new. It's just it's good and it's versatile and most people enjoy it, especially if it's a nice day.
One thing Allegius and I have done, we actually received this as a gift from other friend of the pod, Sarah. It's like it's a list of like 30 different walks, and it's got like a map. It's like a bunch of cards, and each card is like a map of like a walk you do, and then on it has labeled different things to like look at or talk about. It's like
What a stupendous idea.
yeah,
That's awesome.
they're like guided walks, and I'm pretty sure these are produced for multiple cities. Obviously, it's pretty easy to do in Chicago because there's so many places to walk. But having like a guided walk that's like not so formal as like you're on a tour, but like having a destination in mind and walking somewhere you might not necessarily know is really fun. Just to tack onto that.
Wow,
But
Kyle,
actually-
what a wise, high-tech addition to the world of just walking.
Yeah.
Like, you've taken walking and brought it to another level.
Yeah, that's a really next level gift from
Thanks,
friend of the pod,
Sarah.
Sarah. So thank you.
There's a comparable thing. If for a lot of European cities, Rick Steves has these audio guides that you can download for free. It's a little different, but you can go at your own pace and do kind of a self-guided tour and stop and see fun things. I did that with my mom.
Great idea.
I love mom dates. I also, this is like,
Mom dates.
this is an important thing. We're leaning into the romantic dates, and we're especially leaning into the commitment romantic dates because we're all a bunch of dorks.
That's
and
where
all,
we're at.
Yeah, these are all really commitment-y dates, but they're great, like mom dates, dad dates, sibling dates, friend dates that can be sort of tacked onto this too.
For sure.
And you can add the hand holding or not as the relationship goes. Like, my dad and I hold hands, but my sister and I don't.
Sure.
Just kidding. But I actually think Jerry would hold my hand.
Probably would, yeah.
while
Undoubtedly.
walking. If I asked, I think he would.
Except he
My
has
mom, my mom definitely wouldn't.
Jerry has a serious aversion to touching other people's hands.
That yes, as you will learn on
For more on this,
most
see
recent
core
pod.
competencies and head scratchers.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
both. It has come up
Yeah.
in both.
He'd
Very
hold
good,
the
number
wrist,
2.
if nothing else.
Yeah, it's true. Number 2.
So that's number 2.
Number 1, we actually touched on earlier. We separated cooking classes from other classes as our absolute favorite.
Yeah.
It is similar, but that's why we kind of distinguished the one was more art, because the cooking class we thought was an absolute blast. Because you get to eat what you make, but it's the same kind of thing where it's a bonding experience, and you get to learn something you didn't know how to do before. Like, we learned how to not only make, but what a pavlova is.
Yeah.
It's like a delightful...
I mean, I obviously know what this is, but if you wanted to just tell the listeners, that would be fine.
Yeah.
It's a delightful little meringue dessert bowl.
That's how I would probably describe it,
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Kyle? Isn't that how you would describe it?
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe a little differently. That's kind of an
Yeah.
amateurish way of
Right.
describing it,
Right.
but yeah.
And then there's some fresh fruit in the bowl of the meringue.
Yeah, I mean, fresh.
Obviously.
Yeah, I get
Goes
it.
without
That's not
saying.
how I make mine, but yeah, I get it.
Of course.
Not how
And
Theo
then,
makes
yeah,
it
so
either, apparently.
No.
Right. Some
He uses mushed fresh fruit. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your input.
or like a beer cheese mac and cheese, and we have it higher than the farmer's market in cooking a meal because like we like to cook and we like the creativity of being given some ingredients and trying to come up with a meal that makes sense and really flows together and tastes good.
Yeah.
But if you're not into cooking, you really don't want that.
That's
So
true.
This is like everything's already prepped for you. The stuff is
Yeah.
chopped, it's in bowls, it's measured, and you just follow the instructions that someone's giving you, and you're gonna come up with probably something really good as long as you don't like burn or horrendously undercook something,
And
which
if
you probably
do,
won't.
Usually the instructor has extra.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's really good, and it's typically professional chefs, and they typically have assistants, and so they can teach you some techniques. Like they really helped my knife technique.
Yeah, even
and this sort of thing.
like secondary skills.
Yeah, right. Taught me how to peel a peach correctly, just like all sorts of different stuff.
Wow.
I mean, again, obviously, very familiar with that. But
Obviously.
where would you say is the best place to start? I want to compare and see if I think the
then
same.
you just have a paring knife, and you hold the handle like kind of in your fingers
Yeah,
like this,
yep.
and then you hold the peach with the other hand, and you kind of just guide the knife towards your thumb.
That's Kyle. That's what I would say. You too.
You know the old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but this is the only fucking way to peel a peach. And that is true.
Damn right. Yeah. I think this is fantastic. I think that there's probably a combination opportunity in order to fit an extra idea or two on here because I think this is similar enough in kind to the other classes. But I want to go on record as totally agreeing that even among the world of classes and shared learning opportunities, the cooking class reigns supreme. I don't think there's any question.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's like you may not appreciate art, you may not like art,
Yeah.
you may not like food, but at least you need food.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like it's something that everyone can get behind at least somewhat.
Yeah, not everybody needs a homemade candle
No.
necessarily, but everybody needs, a brioche.
Yeah. I'd like a homemade candle. That'd be nice.
That'd be kind of fun.
Okay. Well, let's see if we have anything else we want to add, and then we'll get to it. Mike, I'd like to piggyback on your assertion from earlier. I would stump hard for museums to be on the list. That's one of our very favorite things to do, and I think you could even do this on a first. I actually think this is an incredible first date opportunity.
I think a really
Well,
good
let's go cradle to the grave here. I'll give quickly my first date story, and then I'm sure the listeners know this already, but give your very important story from a museum.
Yeah.
My quick first date is Karen and I went to the Museum of Science in Boston, which is a children's museum, and I think it was Toy Story was the exhibit at the time. I want to say we ended up cheaping out because it was expensive and we were in high school, but we did the tour of the museum. I still remember what she was wearing because she looked very beautiful. We got some ice cream of the future at the end, and we learned about whales, and it was a blast. And that was a memory I will cherish forever. And we have since added many more museums to our repertoire, kind of all over the country and the world. It's a cool thing for us. So I'm huge into museums. It was one of the things that started my relationship with Caroline. So, Kyle, if you wouldn't mind, you've got a good museum story too.
Yeah, well, Legis and I just like going to them, and one of our favorites is the Adler Planetarium in Chicago, both for its daytime exhibits, which are stunning and make you ponder, but they also have after dark activities for adults, which are really cool, and we like it so much that is actually where I proposed marriage to Legis in the dome type room. So obviously museums hold a very special place for us, and I just think it's not for everybody, like walking through a museum for a couple of hours and just talking about stuff, but I think it's a really good date.
I would also argue, Kyle, what you're you're hedging a little bit, and I get it, like you're trying to be inclusive of people who aren't museum people, but if you're not a museum person, I think you can do what Tom and Summer do in 500 Days of Summer at IKEA and just make fun of it. Like, I think a museum is actually a really good place for people who hate museums. Just walk around and make fun of it. It's fun.
Yeah, that's a really good point, too.
Yeah.
It is important to have a mutual interest in a museum, though.
Yeah.
Or mutual dislike.
Right. Yes, I think either way you can make it work.
As long as it's mutual.
Discover mutual interests and dislikes.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, do you have any others that you're thinking about?
I don't think it should go on the list, but I'd be negligent if I did not mention maybe the best date Legis and I have ever been on. It was like 2 weeks ago. We went to a bathhouse where they just had like various baths, like hot tubs and cold tubs and open aired ones.
This is a PG-13 pod, Kyle.
It was nothing sensual about it. It was just it was like Roman style, so it was really dark and like it was, it felt like you were in a Roman bathhouse. It was so cool. We got they had one that had the same saltwater content as the Dead Sea, so you just kind of floated there.
Cool.
And then we splurged and we got massages, and it was this is not a good first date, probably, unless you really want to impress somebody, but I was one of the best dates we've ever had, and we'll probably be doing that again, so I just had to mention that. I don't think it belongs on the list.
Incredible, though.
We recently did some hot spring baths, because we were in a location with a volcano that had some hot vents that filtered through the water, and so we had some pretty good hot spring locations.
Dang.
They're really nice.
Beautiful flowers all around.
Yeah.
Waterfalls.
Last plug is something that I don't think I would do on a first date, or I really probably wouldn't do until I'd been dating someone for a while, but one of our favorite things to do in an evening is just get something good to eat, maybe cook ourselves, and then work on a puzzle. I know puzzles are not for everybody, but this is something we have done a lot of, and it's a good time to, because you end up like, you don't have to think that hard to do a puzzle. You end up just doing a lot of chatting and stuff. So that's it for me.
That's a terrific one. I have two. One is kind of, depending on your angle, closely related to that puzzling thing, which is a co-reading date. Caroline and I have had some of our most pleasant afternoons just going somewhere. Like, we'll go. We won't just end up somewhere. Like, we'll make a point. We're going to XYZ place to read together. And that's really nice. That probably is, like the puzzle, a little too specific to people who have that as an interest. But bookstore browsing is one of my all-time favorite dates. Caroline and I, alas, as Quinn found out today, Caroline and I both have to poop every time we go to a bookstore. But aside from that little detour, we love doing that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
we go to different kinds, used bookstores, big like bookstore emporium types. We make a point of finding them where we travel. So I think that's a really lovely way to kind of learn with somebody and learn about that person. So that's a favorite. The only other thing I'd mention, it's a little bit of a cheat, but I like planned combo dates. So like Caroline for her birthday, I've done some themes the last couple of years. So this past year it was Harry Potter. So I did something based on each of the titles.
Ooh, that's really
each
cool.
of the titles of the book. So like Goblet of Fire, we went out for a cool drink at a speakeasy because it was a Goblet of Fire. Like things like that. So that...
Boy, you flexing.
Yeah, so that's definitely fun. Or I did a treat yourself day for Caroline's birthday one year where we did fine leather goods. We went to a bookstore because like leather-bound books. And I got her a pedicure for the massages. We went out to brunch for mimosas. So, like, I think those kind of dates are really, really fun. Like a themed day date. It's a little bit of a cheat because it's combining things.
Yeah.
But that's like a way I like to date.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Theo agrees.
I think net though, Kyle and I are definitely interested in museums, and I think combining cooking and classes, and I think we'd be okay with just
general classes.
Kind of maybe just taking a brief look at the order. Kyle,
Sure.
Does that work for you?
I mean, we need to pick a place to slot in museums, I think, but
I'd be pretty good if we just put that into number 9 where the art, pottery wine classes are.
Yeah.
So then do all classes move to number 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
And then I'm pretty good with this list, Kyle.
I don't know. We could nitpick the order, but I don't think we need to. I really like it as is. I think you all did a very fine job preparing it.
Agreed. And plus, I don't want to lose the flair of picturing you guys on these dates.
Yeah.
You look great. You're both as sparkling in all of mine. Quinn, your beard is trimmed perfectly. Emma, your blonde hair is just sparkling in the breeze. I don't want to mess that up.
Well,
agreed.
We hope that it gives some people some good ideas because we've enjoyed all of these, and I think other people will too.
And it's a great way to keep things fresh and
Yeah.
exciting.
Yep.
And
Even when you've been to the gynecologist together.
that's right. And if any of these
Still
dates,
keep it surprising.
if any of these dates lead to children, we accept Quinn and Emma as the names.
Yep.
Of course.
Middle names are good too.
So do
We'll
you want
accept
to
middle
recap us?
names.
Yes, we'll accept middle names.
Okay.
Go for it, Quinn.
All right. So,
Let's start with number 11, please.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. At number 11, we have going out to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10, we have water activities. Number 9, we have museums and zoos and aquariums.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8, we have guided tours. 7, adventure activities. Number 6, live entertainment or sporting events.
Number 5, we have farmers markets and cooking a meal together. Number 4 is getting drinks. Number 3 is holiday activities and festivals. Number 2 is going on walks and people, or more importantly, dog watching. Number 1 is classes, like especially cooking classes, but also pottery or wine and painting classes, and learning to do something together.
Wow. Also, seamless transition at the number 5 there. That was beautiful.
Thank
It
you.
didn't look as seamless if you had the video,
No.
but they crushed it on the audio.
Yeah. Well, I would like to say thank you both for scrambling to put together this list. It was, as usual, a treat to top 10 with you both. Is this the first, joint list where we've had 2 guests presenting the same list?
It's not the first 4-person because I know on cookies.
Yeah,
it was
but I
both
think
Caroline
this is the
and
first
Jared.
time that it's actually been jointly prepared
Usually
by 2 people.
Usually
I
the
think you're
4th
right.
person is just reacting to the
They're
first
just like an
person's
expert.
list.
They're like Caroline was an outside expert on
Right.
on
A
cooking.
cookie
Pepper's Farm
consultant.
cookies mostly.
Yeah, exactly.
So congratulations on this momentous first.
And thank you. It was actually a 3-person list.
That's true.
Because we had our young friend Teodoro helping. And a special thank seriously though, in all seriousness, a special thank you to you guys for doing this, because I know it's a little more challenging with the little buddy, and you did a great job with him. So thank you.
It's just more challenging for the producers, of which we are not.
Yeah.
In no way.
It's okay. We'll take it out of your paycheck.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
That's acceptable.
Kyle, so is there anything you want to say?
Well, I would just say that if you enjoyed our intro music or the Stanky Not Top 3 music, you have the wonderful Kevin MacLeod to thank for that. He does such a good job. And I would also say that if you liked staring at me and Mike's face on our artwork, don't forget that Erin Sant did that. And you can see more of her stuff at Sant Design on Instagram if you were so inclined.
Or even if you hated looking at our faces but thought the artwork was well
Yeah,
done.
good point. Probably more
Yeah.
likely.
Which it is.
Yes, it is. And if you love our social media presence, which has admittedly been a little lacking lately, good work there, Caroline. We'll be back at it, but likely with a very close-up of Emma's scar and possibly some other stuff. We'll see what we can brainstorm up.
The fresh wound, too.
Yeah, check out the
Yeah.
online stylings of the lovely Caroline Labranti all over the place. And if you want to check us out on social media, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Top10KM. 10 is spelled out. If you want to email us suggestions, no death threats, maybe some ideas for stuff you want to contribute with, if you want to teach us a thing or two about a thing or two, that's top10 at gmail, top10km at gmail.com.
Sure
And
is.
you're probably listening to this on a podcast app, but if you wanted another one, there's the Apple Podcast app, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, pretty much wherever podcasts can be found. That's what I'd say, bud.
I think that is the right thing to say. Again, big thank you to you all.
Yep.
I'll be
for having us on again.
Yeah.
Get out
Always
of
a
here.
blast. Yeah, we'll see you. I think we'll all see you in what, like 2 weeks now?
Very soon, we'll all be hanging out.
Damn right we will, for a very special celebration of some dear friends of the pod.
That's right. Until then, arrivederci, amigos.
Peace.